more aggression, a lot more players willing to hop out of their own vehicles to lay down some of that damage, to destroy some of these vehicles. But Panda, listen, we are on our way in to game number 4 of the day, and unfortunately our last for the EU region.
Last, but you know what? These players, they still got some more opportunities after today, so don't even worry about it. But this is going to be the last game of the day for Europe, and let's see how it unfolds. This battle bus is locked, loaded, ready to go, and the players are jumping out.
Yeah, and here we go. You know, we love to talk about how it's amazing to see the switch up for Noah Riley and Vidil. I know we've talked about them a lot, but the switch up that they made from Condo Canyon over to Command Cavern has really been beneficial. Now, it hasn't been extraordinarily beneficial. Like, we haven't seen them rise up to the top of the leaderboard, but the fact that that switch up has created more potential for them, do you think any other team is kind of go for a play like that, make some sort of switch up?
You know, it's tough. It's a tough call. At this point in the tournament, I'm not sure that it makes the most sense to cause that shift up or create that shift up for you, especially when it comes to drop spots. But if it's really not working out, now's your last chance, right? Like,
yeah,
you definitely have to make some kind of change. And if that drop is the change you have to make, so be it. But just make sure you make that drop change quickly, because even if you're Andretta, for example, despite having great games, it looks like this game is not going in their favor.
And interesting, we have not seen Andretta actually at Coney Crossroads. They were actually landing up at Sleepy Sounds, right? And the reason why I know that is because Giannis is landing just north of that. So Andretta actually makes one of these switch ups that we were just talking about. But Panda, it does not work out at all.
No, it does not. And especially to Coney Crossroad, right? We saw how contested this area was going into the day. And ultimately choosing to come here was definitely, while it was a switch up, it wasn't the right switch up. If you're going to switch POIs, you need to not only look for the vehicles, but also make sure you find a spot that is less congested and contested, because the last thing you want to do is fall early like we saw from Andretta's team.
Yeah, but, you know, you got to admire the fact they did actually go for one of those switch ups. They have seen how dominant these tanks have been, and they kind of just made the decision to go for the one that just so happens to spawn over at Coney Crossroads. So, you know, this is the last game of the day, but we still do have more games to play after today. So, you know, kind of toying with the idea of going for that tank in future games could be something that they're kind of looking at, and just wanted to see how it goes. As we see Malibuca, after that great clutch in the last game, they're going to be finding himself in this pinch between Vidil and Noah Riley. Not somewhere that I would want to be, but he is doing a great job of utilizing this wind tunnel, and we have seen this trick before, Panda.
We've seen it before. You know, it's actually funny. I will say what Malibuca is doing here is honestly probably one of the better plays. The only option you have here is for Noah Riley to find something that he could stick to Vidil and have Vidil fly into Malibuca and it explode. That's literally all you can do. So smart play on Malibuca's part. But now Malibuca actually decides to slip away. So I don't think Noah Riley realizes it either. So fortunately, Malibuca going to be able to heal up, stay in this game, and hopefully get his teammate back.
Oh, man, they were kind of a little bit distracted. Noah Riley trying out some tricks here, just trying to throw the nades all which way to kind of see if they will go right under that thing. But he doesn't even realize that Malibuca actually made a quick move, and he's not even under that little platform anymore. So a little bit of a mistake from Noah Riley's part. Did not keep his eye on the prize for a split second, and it does mean that he does lose out on a little bit of information. So if they decide to actually fly back down that wind tunnel, then they might be met with a little bit of a surprise. And he's actually going to check right now, and he realizes that Malibuca is no longer under there, so the combos are going to come in, and Vidil and Noah Riley, I think, are going to be on the chase.
On the chase, indeed, but Malibuca continues to do a good job of just staying in here. And it's kind of nice having all these little crevices that you can hide in. And I will say I've recently seen some hide and seek taking place here. And honestly, it's good practice ahead of a zero build tournament like this.
Oh man, and Noah Riley actually make a really good play. They decided to go down into the cavern and use one of those scan things to kind of see where the players are at. But they kind of got so focused on Blast and Kirwa that they didn't, I don't even think they did like a 180 or a 360 to kind of look around them and potentially see if Malabuka got scanned. So they kind of saw these two players over here and decide to kind of take some shots. They did get Kirwa very low, I believe down to like 1 or 2 health, but he does survive. So now Noah Riley and Vidya kind of not getting really anything out of this early game in terms of eliminations, and we usually see them actually get these eliminations. And I think this is a smart player here out of Noah. He's actually waiting for the scanner to replenish.
Waiting for the scanner to replenish, definitely the play. And there it is, going to be able to get some more information. And you actually see Noah Riley opting in to hold that particular fish. If you don't know at home, that particular fish actually allows you to have like an infrared scan, similar to the thermal rifle. So having that in the inventory and being able to pop that is definitely going to help, especially find players that are hiding. But speaking of hiding, it's now Kirill and Blaster. It's actually a flipped perspective from what we're used to seeing, right? Now it's Kirwa and Blaster in the vault area, while the opposing team in Vidil and Noah Riley are trying to get involved and get some shots in. So this is tough. But no, Noah Riley gets dropped in. They said, you know what? We're just going to push. It looks like Blaster may go down, but not. Oh my, no.
No way.
The 1v2 takes them both out and claims their vault back. What did I just watch, Vivid?
Oh, let's go, Vidil. That's what we love to see. That is such a smart play, right? Because they know that these players are going into the vault. There is no hesitation, and that's why they are known as some of the most aggressive players on the E region, because they make these very quick, decisive decisions. It is so smart to go for that shockwave play instantly, because the longer that that duo is in there, the longer that they have to heal, and they know that they just did so much damage on the back foot of them actually running into that vault. So they just go for it instantly and give themselves the best opportunity to actually win out in this situation, and it plays out great. Vidil with a nice little 1v2 clutch. Obviously, Noah Riley sending himself in there as kind of a distracting target, and Vidil the awesome shots to lay down, and there we go. They find those early eliminations.
Some early eliminations go in, and I gotta say, that is a good result here in the final game of the day. We've watched that storyline take place for game after game, and honestly, what a resolution for us. This is probably the best way we could have watched it cap on the day, is at least one team able to take out the other team fairly quickly in a situation like that. And really, it was kind of interesting, right? It makes you wonder, as Blaster and co, right? As a team, do you even try to make that play again? Because clearly, Noah Riley and Vidil, they are the masters of that vault.
I think that was just a really ideal situation for Noah Riley and Vidil, and that's why I really want to highlight just how good of a play that they made. They did so much damage. Vidil alone was just chasing forever because he knew where those players are going. He knows that drop spot so well already, even though they just recently made that change, and he's just finding those angles to do as much damage as possible. So going into the vault, Blaster and Kirwa just did not have full HP because of the damage they took. So yes, they can go for that kind of play again, but they cannot take that much damage as they go into the vault, or else Noah Riley and Vidil would just take full advantage of it. And that's kind of what we saw highlighted right there. But, you know, in situations where Noah Riley and Vidil have kind of been in the vault, full HP, we've seen how hesitant Kirwa has been in going in, right? And that's because he knows that huge advantage is really hard to do anything with, because they're full HP and stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's going to be a tough game to play out here, but speaking of tough, man, it's Hellfire and Scram. They are not letting up here on Eagermer and Co and Vox. They are just continuing to pressure them. This is so interesting to watch a fight play out between two vehicles like that, because obviously we've seen the vehicles go head to head with another player, right? But when you see two vehicles going head to head with one another and players in the passenger seat having to take shots like that, it definitely brings a different dynamic to the fights, to say the least.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Maybe Hellfire and Scram just aren't too happy with their loot, so they were going for some quick eliminations, but really, really hard to secure any of those against players who are in a vehicle, because the fight just keeps on moving. You got to reload, they have time to heal, they can drive away and stuff like that. But Hellfire not going to be working out in that sense, and he does invest a little bit of time. As you can see, Scram doesn't have any shields left anymore, and Hellfire only has 32. So they are going to be trying to look around, try to see if they can pick up some loot that has not been gathered yet. And Scram actually does find himself with like 30 shield. Yep, 31 shield for him. So that's good at least, but again, not looking too good. 36 ammunition and the AR for Scram, and then only 50 combat SMG ammunitions for the Hellfire. But that's how those fights go. You know what I mean? Invest in some of those resources, and if it doesn't work out, then you just don't get anything in return.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the risk to reward ratio there in a situation like that. But speaking of risk to reward, Bad Sniper DKS not quite having the day number 2 that we were expecting from them. They did have a really solid start on the day. However, the conditions have kind of slowed down for them just a bit. And with Pickle and Jaron in the distance, they already ran. So Bad Sniper, DKS, they're still in the game. They got their vehicle, and they're looking to be safe. But speaking of safe, it's Vortex and Giannis who find themselves in a vehicle. This is your pick here, looking to come back in the tournament.
Listen, this is the game that they can do it, because we just mentioned earlier we saw Andretta. Oh wow, Andretta and Tripper, switch their drop slot up, so they are no longer landing at Sleepy Sound, and we know that Vortex and Giannis are landing just north of Sleepy Sound. So this game earlier, when we actually did a little bit of a pan over of the map, I saw Vortex and Giannis looting all of Sleepy Sound. So they have gotten so much loot this game. They have a nice truck souped up. They just have to play well, make some very good decisions, and it looks like they're going to try to maybe go on the edge of zone, kind of try to stay away from everybody that they possibly can to make sure that their truck stays alive for as long as possible, because you don't want to run in to any of these tanks that are kind of lurking out there. And looking at this zone, we are going to have one of these zones where there are going to be a lot of elevation changes, and you have to be careful when you are using a truck, because if you kind of find yourself in a situation where you can't go up a hill, then you are forced into a path where it might not be ideal, because usually there's like valleys and stuff like that around those hills.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful, right? And you also have to be mindful. I think one of the biggest skills in Zero Build is identifying the best places to position yourself with the natural cover. And when I'm saying natural cover, I don't mean things that can break, right? I mean these hills and these angles that you can kind of cover, not only with the vehicles, but with the hills themselves, because you're protecting yourself in a way that not only is obviously going to keep you from getting shot, but it's going to keep you from getting seen by most of these other players, especially as they rotate, because they're not actively looking at every crevice and corner of these hills as they drive through, especially if they're in a vehicle like most of the lobby is.
Yeah, very good point, that natural cover, highlighting that. Yeah, there is a lot of natural cover in Fortnite, but you can break a lot of it. And we've seen a lot of situations where some of these players get put into awkward situations where the cover that they're using just gets broken, as we see Cammy actually lay down some nice shots to Vox, actually, as Eager kind of is trying to chill in the bush and hide, but no, Cammy and Seti are way too aware of that possibility, and they do actually force him out of that bush, but don't pick up the elimination. They are probably very, very happy with the pickup that they found on Vox, so they are going to go over there and pick up that elimination. But in the elimination feed, Panda, no, Bad Sniper and DKS go down.
It's tough. It's been a tough day number 2 for them for sure. However, they definitely have the potential to come back in the next day and kind of fix the mentality, fix the game plan, and resurrect the opportunities that they have here in front of them. But speaking of teams that need to really work on some stuff, it's Sly. Sly has already lost his teammate by himself now, having to kind of hold on to these buildings and hide here. However, if you're a vehicle and you're driving through with either a cow catcher on the front or you're a truck that can damage builds pretty quickly, you're most likely going to try to drive through this building. So for Sly, you do not want to spend too much time here. The last thing you need is for a vehicle to drive through. But of course, as I say that, is that Malabuka in the distance looking to take some shots? Sly, man, you might want to mantle up there, use that launch pad, and get as far away as possible.
Yeah, one of those tricky situations, but very, very good position for Vortex and Giannis as they pick up 2 eliminations, but Giannis does go down quickly after I say that. Of course, that's just how it goes. But we are going to be finding ourselves over here at the Cavern. Giannis does get picked up, we see in the distance right there, but the Cavern, There's just so many layers to this cavern, and the fact that the zone is ending here as we are going to be seeing the reveal of the fourth zone, and yeah, the cavern itself is actually going to be in. So, you know, these players can be in any of these sneaky little crevices that are within the cavern itself. They can be up top. Also, the blimp kind of comes into play if that ends up being in zone. So there are just so many levels for these teams to be on. But what's very, very interesting about a zone like this, Panda, is that if you're inside the cavern, if you're up on top of the blimp, you can't really have vehicles in those positions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you really can't. You have to be super careful in the way that you play this out, and this might be the first in-game that we see without this abundance of vehicles like we've seen in games past. So this could be a really exciting finish here to finish not only off the day, but to finish this game, because this is going to be a unique take. We haven't seen a zone like this to date, so it's definitely going to be a struggle point for the existing players, because I don't know that they've had to experience an end game quite like this.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the elevation changes, right? Like, it's not going to be easy to kind of utilize those vehicles. The places that you can drive are just so limited. Those off-road tires, as we can see. Steno actually take an Anvil rocket launcher to his truck, but you know that the repair torches are something that has become very, very prevalent for a lot of these teams, and we are seeing why they are so good. You know, he takes pretty much half of the durability out of his truck, and it just heals right back up, even though he did get hit with that rocket launcher. And we see Nikov here and Analex kind of rolling as a little bit of a convoy. Analex is full HP, but Nikov opting to not actually heal up yet, kind of feeling a little secure in the tank. And, you know, we just made that point about how it's going to be very, very hard for a lot of these vehicles to make their way up this mountain. And I think if we're looking at the zone on the west side and the southwest side, I think we're going to see a lot of these vehicles kind of converge on each other because they just don't have anywhere else to go. And we're going to see these fights here, like we're seeing a Refsguard get taken out by another tank in Hydra and Naiad. And I don't think it'll be long before we see this tank go up against the tank that Nikov and Analex have.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the tank is going to be the priority here for Hydra, they're going to need to focus on keeping it healthy. That's why you see the repair torch coming out. But no, players said, you know what? We're not going to allow you to just freely have this tank here. So they're going to begin to punish them. On Hydra, though, going to be able to heal up a little bit. Naiad as well, going to heal up. But no, taking a lot of damage here from the players up above. It does look like they may be able to slip away, but no, they're going to actually slip straight into the tunnel. They're actually going to be able to keep the tank alive here. This is insane. That is not what I was expecting to happen there.
Yeah, and again, look at this. We see on Hydra and Naiad, they are struggling in the tank. They're taking so much damage. And Nikov and Analex find themselves in a similar situation as Analex is actually down, but Nikov looking to kind of make a play to wait for him to kind of crawl over so that way he can get that res going as on Hydra and Naiad. I wonder how much mobility they actually have in this tank as Frey actually runs into the tunnel and he is met with a tank. Not ideal at all. So Naiad and Unhydra are going to be delivered a little bit of loot. They're going to be very, very happy with that, because if you're looking at their HPs before they got these chug splashes, they were not looking too healthy. So going to be healing up, not to full death, which is a mystery to me. I feel like you should pretty much always be full HP because you can't get siphoned in this game mode, right? So being full HP is pretty much always ideal.
Yeah, I will say this, right? If you're Frey, we kind of talk about that situation for a second, because Frey just ran in there like, yes, I'm safe. No, that's a tank. And unfortunately just immediately gets deleted. But now we see the zone beginning to pull a little bit off the cavern, and there might actually be some players that try to remain in the cavern, but if they're not careful, they could end up being the victim of Storm, because Storm is going to cause some major issues for these players if they're not careful. But for players like Colleen, they tried to get an elimination and unfortunately did not succeed. Sly, though, still in this game as a solo player. That is impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, he goes down to the Storm. Actually stayed out there for a little bit longer than he could handle. But yeah, listen, we're talking about the dynamics now of a zone like this. Honestly, I think this is going to come down to like a heal off of sorts, but I don't know if any of these players themselves like have enough inventory spaces to like account for heal offs, because you have the players that are actually hiding out in the cavern, and then you have these players that are are very, very comfortable in their vehicles up top on top of the mountain. And eventually, as this zone closes, the entrances and exits to the cavern itself are going to be completely covered by the storm. So there is going to be no way for these players to connect to each other. So if any of these players have some meds, some med kits, some med mist, or floppers, it's going to be very, very beneficial in a zone like this.
It definitely is. The heal off is going to be a strong contender here to win this game. But with Steno and Lucy up on the high ground, it's going to be interesting. You see the shots raining down from above, connecting with some serious players here. They're just all trying to take out the remaining vehicles. Pinkett and Nas find themselves in a truck. The tank starting to dwindle down in health. And it is actually Mo's 2K holding on here for his team as a solo player. But your pick in Vortex and Giannis, they're still in it. They're still trying to make something happen. And they're actually in a spot that I'm not quite sure where they're at.
Well, I think they're in the cavern, which is what I was saying. So hopefully, they have some heals or something like that, because there's no way for these players to meet each other. Look, this is what I was saying. There is no way for Vortex and Giannis to go to a Nas and Pink, and a Nas and Pink can't get to Giannis and Vortex. So these players are going to need to gather up as many heals as they can. And listen, it does not look good for Giannis and Vortex. If I just saw the inventory of a Nas correctly, it looked like he had 11 chug splashes and floppers, and then also Pink was dropping him heals. But as you can see, these players are so smart, right? Like, I ended up calling that this was going to happen a couple minutes ago, so I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back real quick. But they know what's going on too, right? They are preparing for this. This is awesome, and this is going to be a heal off.
And this is going to be a heal off of the ages, right? This is not something you get to see too often here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out as the zone begins to close in. Giannis, Vortex going to need to be super careful. No, they cannot afford to leave those heals behind. Yeah. That was a bit of a misplay, not having that in the inventory sooner. And now they're just playing it out. It's the true definition of high ground versus low ground. What are you going to do here in a situation like this? Well, you're going to use those chug flashes. You're going to try to find any additional heals there in the end game, but I think it's all but over. I think a Nas and Pink, as long as they stay in the zone here, should be able to claim it. But no, as I say that, Vortex actually finds a new angle to stay alive, but it was just a little crevice. So now Vortex going to have to find a way to escape the tunnel here and continue going, and he does. There is no way this is happening. And Pink, wait, Pink has gone down.
Yeah, Pink ended up going for the elimination.
Versus the Nas.
Yeah, unfortunately for Vortex and Giannis, they just had no room, right? Like a Nas and Pink up here, they had all the room in the world to go like pretty much anywhere. But Vortex and Giannis, they just ran out of the cavern, and as you can see here, they put up a great fight. But a Nas and Pink are actually going to win out on that heal up in the end game there. That was a very unique situation. That was really, really awesome. But at the end of the day, I'm very, very happy for a Giannis and a Nas that it did end up picking up that second place there. Or what did I say? Did I say Giannis and a Nas? No, I meant Giannis and Vortex. But also very, very happy for Pink and a Nas, because I think that is the first victory we've seen out of them, and they are obviously well-vetted players as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say it, right? You kind of said it as well. I think that's the most unique play we've seen in all of Chapter 3 so far that we've been able to watch. So that was super exciting to be able to kind of hone in that moment here with you, Vivid. But before we toss it back over to Kelly and finish off